Okay, I decided that I should just try this again, since it's been a minute. I really don't even know how to get into it, which is a weird feeling, but that's how I've been feeling about being creative lately too. And I did paint a little bit today. Did I do a good job? No. No, I didn't. I was watching a David show. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's an artist. And I was watching a video of his the other day that's talking about doing underpaintings to kind of let your feelings out, and then you just paint over it. And suddenly you have to like kind of be willing to let go of everything and just put your emotions on out there. This is the background that I've started for one, which is the main color I have in my room. It's the color of my comforters. So that's something separate. But I did this, which looks like shit, I know. But I think that section right there is kind of neat. I used... there's certain things I can do looking close up that look kind of neat. It was all just emotions, and it was more just mindless. His whole point was to put your anger out and to get like all your frustration and to put it into art and to put your emotions, whatever emotion you're feeling the most of, and put it into the underpainting. And then you paint over it, you make it back to completely white, and then you start from there. But that puts an emotion into the art that you're working with. Which I just thought, he was like, obviously you're going to start with what you always start with, which is your underpainting. And I was like, what? I didn't know that was a thing. But like as soon as he talked about it, I understood and was like, oh, that's actually very, very cool. I never thought about that, but it makes sense to put your energy into what it is you're working on that way. So I'm definitely going to have to start doing that, seeing what comes of it. I already have an idea to put a little more time and energy into a painting than I have ever in the past. Normally I kind of have an idea that comes to my mind and I just whip it out. And the most time I think I've ever put into a painting, well, my mom, I had a friend, Rachel, that I made a painting for that I think took about 6 hours to make. But my mom has all my other paintings that I ever actually put time and energy into. And she's fucking cursed everything with her damn energy. I hate that she does that. But it's whatever. It's whatever. It's not more powerful than my capacity to create, because I am a creator. I'm a human being. You can't take away the essence of what I am. You can try, but it's only going to make you lose your essence, because you're going to start tapping into all this weird shit that isn't you, so that you can gain some sense of power. Just wouldn't recommend it. Just let people be. Just let people be. Just let people be themselves. Okay, so I'm drinking coffee for the second time in the last 2 weeks. I have it's coffee and chai tea. The chai is for flavor. The coffee is for staying up, because I wanted to feel some type of way. I want to see if I can actually paint more. Do something creative, draw. I was talking to somebody recently about getting back into drawing, because it's something I haven't done for quite some time. And like specifically getting back into drawing porn, because it's something I am good at. I don't think there's anything wrong with it when it comes to the art of it. I think it actually makes it better, because then it's not just like hardcore explicit, like it's not just like looking at porn, it's looking at art. So it says something, and it also like it just gets out. But I haven't been watching porn. I haven't been looking at it, so I haven't really had the desire to. And I guess that was always a thing, because like when I used to make art doing it that way, I would like be able to actually look at it just for the sake of the art. But then after a while, like a couple weeks of making art that way, suddenly I would find myself like obsessively watching porn, and I'm a recovering porn addict, for those that don't know. So it's kind of a slippery slope for me if I don't keep myself steady. Incorporating it into art has always been a way that I can kind of make something different of it and use that energy in a positive way. And yeah, just get that energy out, but in a way that's not like destructive to my spirit, my person. But yeah, I've actually just been doing a really good job lately. I noticed myself getting, and it's been that way now for a couple years, where it's almost like any time that I start looking at porn, I kind of just go right into the raunchier stuff, and then it doesn't take long if I continue to watch porn before I'm desensitized enough that I'm like watching the stuff that would be in my red category. As far as a 12-step program, you learn like there's green stuff, there's yellow stuff, and there's red stuff, right? The green stuff is like, this is all fine. Maybe you're a person that can't watch any porn. Maybe you're somebody who can watch a certain kind of porn sometimes, or with like in a certain scenario, like a certain situation. Yellow is like maybe that certain situation, or there's certain kinds, and like they don't necessarily do anything bad for you, and they're not bad themselves, but they are leading to red. So like as soon as you're in the yellow, you have to pull yourself out because you already know you're headed down the wrong path. And red is where you shouldn't go, where you don't want to be, what you don't want to be looking at. And I'll just jump into it. I still let myself go to red, so that's a problem that I am still working on. That's why I'm still in recovery. You know, like, I'm no longer addicted to cigarettes. Not just because I don't use them, but because I don't crave them. I can be around them without it like affecting me that way. But I guess it's the same sort of thing. They say once you're an addict, always an addict, because like I'd quit smoking cigarettes for 5 years, and then I picked them up again, when I was dating this dude who smoked, because it was just such a casual thing, and because I liked sharing cigarettes with him, because it was like a weird little level of intimacy. And then I started getting my own cigarettes, so I wasn't smoking his, but then I could smoke with him, and it was almost kind of subconscious at that point. But then it moved into me being on the street and like smoking fairly consistently, because that's just a way that you kind of survive. I mean, I wasn't spending the last of my money on cigarettes, but anytime I could afford them, I was getting them. Just like around, sharing them with people and stuff like that, so that by the time I could actually afford them, then I was definitely buying them. And then I got to the point where, like, by the time I was working with my last client in Texas, I was smoking like a pack a day, and largely in part because people kept like, I was like trying to slow down, and people kept like getting me packs, because I would like share all my cigarettes with them, so they just give me a pack. And like, I don't know, it just turned into this whole thing. Her son had gotten me a pack one time, and at that point I was like, I don't know, I just started smoking them all the time. So I cut that out in June. June, I believe, was the last time I had a cigarette. June was also the last time I smoked any pot. I think the very beginning of July. Maybe the first week of July, I was still smoking pot. It is now October. So I've been doing good. And like, as far as caffeine, I haven't drank any soda in 2 weeks, which is great. Any soda at all. I fucking love soda, but if I drink it, I start drinking it nonstop, and it's too much. I haven't drank any energy drinks in that 2 weeks. And like I said, this is my second time having coffee. Haven't eaten any fast food in 2 weeks either, which is hard for me. These are things that I am addicted to. You know, I didn't have to be addicted to meth or crack or heroin or any of that shit, because I was already doing enough. You know, most of the people I know that do meth and crack and heroin they don't really have a problem with eating like I always have. A lot of them still have sex addiction. A lot of them actually are like alcoholics. A lot of them smokers. I don't think I've ever met somebody on those drugs that wasn't also a smoker. And I do think that cigarettes, like, I don't think they're the gateway drug. I think that caffeine actually is, socially tends to be more of a gateway drug. And then cigarettes. And it's just that the cigarettes make it easy. Not that, like, smoking cigarettes makes you want to ever do crack. Because I've never done crack, I've never done meth, I've never done heroin. And I smoked cigarettes since I was, like, 14. I started smoking cigarettes when I was, like, 12, 13. And then regularly since I was, like, 14, 15. But I think when you're on those things, it seems that the cigarette smoking, like, one, is just very hard to quit. But it also, like, just makes it easier to do other things because it's a stimulant that sort of way. I mean, it's the same thing with the caffeine. Like, my brother had expressed the same with pot, where, like, it was hard, he always wanted to be able to smoke pot without smoking cigarettes, but the smoking was kind of the addiction in that way, and it was very hard to quit one when he still wanted to partake in the other. And I found that from time to time, but for the most part, cigarettes weren't hard for me to quit by the time I quit them because they make me sick. They literally, like, fuck my shit up. And I noticed, like, as a singer, like, I kept getting bronchitis every year, and I kept, like, losing my voice, and every time it would come back deeper. So I used to be a soprano, and right now my voice is actually lighter, like, my voice is higher than it was, like, 4 months ago. 4 months ago when I was smoking consistently. Like, I was smoking, like, cigarettes all throughout the day. I was smoking pot all throughout the day. And then even, like, drinking, like, having a beer maybe once or twice a week, maybe having that much. I don't know. I would drink, like, every once in a while. It really depended on, like, the circumstances. Like, I'm mostly just a social drinker. I don't really care for drinking like that, normally. Although lately I've been, like, really tempted to just, like, get a bottle of whiskey or bourbon. And just to have it, put it in some coffee. See, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. I want to mix them. I like being crossfaded and then suddenly I'm just on drugs, right? So I don't necessarily need that. I was also like, I want to start going back out to the clubs, the comedy clubs, but it's difficult when, like, I'm not trying to drink or smoke right now. Because that's, like, the social thing. That's how you, like, sit down and that's how you get comfortable with people. Now, thankfully, I think people know me enough now that, like, I could just go and people will recognize me and just want to chill. And, like, I don't necessarily have to drink or smoke. But that is kind of what we all do there. And, like, it's not that I don't want to do those things. I'm just trying not to do those things because it's greatly benefited me to not be on those things. More or less. You know. The reason I quit smoking pot was because I was doing it for a job. I don't necessarily need to do that now, but at the same time, until I've gotten, like, until I've really settled into what I'm trying to do here, I think that it's a good idea for me not to do it, because that way, like, if for whatever reason I need to drug test, I can know that I'm clean. I don't want to have to risk it. Every other time I've ever had to do drug tests, I've always had to, like, finagle them, you know, generally using fake piss, which is dishonest. I get that that's the way it's supposed to be for those of us that smoke pot, that, you know, are trying to have decent jobs and, like, can be responsible with it, but ultimately, like, and people know that's what you're doing, and that's why they have it on the job, or, like, unless you get hurt, like, if you get hurt on the job, then, you know, now you're gonna have to go get drug tested, and then you're gonna end up losing your job. But, like, generally speaking, as long as you come to work every day and get the job done and do a good job at your job, they don't care, right? Which I think is reasonable, and I think that's fine, and I think that's how it should be. I just don't want to be dishonest. I don't, you know, I want to be in a place where, like, I can literally be like, yeah, I smoke pot here and there. Like, I'm not going to do it here. I'm not going to do this. Like, but I can't be in that place yet because I haven't established myself exactly the way I'm trying to yet. So I need to do the footwork first, and then I can enjoy myself those ways. Right now, I'm just enjoying having my own space, eating good food, like food that's good for me, drinking lots of water, being able to sleep in my own bed. Okay, fine, I'll show you my bed. I love it. See, look at my bed. That's so nice. There's my headphones on there. Right? I don't really have much in my room, but this is my room. And I have my dresser. Okay, so I have a lot of stuff on my dresser right now because I'm doing stuff. I have my water that I've been drinking. I have my plants. These are my plants. I haven't introduced you to my plants. Don't fuck with my plants. Those are my special babes. But I've been painting, so that's what all that stuff is. Yeah, and I got a closet. You want to see my closet? I'm so dumb. So dumb. Nobody wants to see my closet, but I want to show it to you. Just because I'm like, I got my own closet with my very own things in it. Dude, that's wild. I haven't had my own space like this in so long. So long. In 4 years. And like all my stuff is like nice. It's so nice. Okay. I'm done bragging. I've just been very happy. This is good enough, right? I don't even need more than this. This is fine. When you learn how to just appreciate the little bit you have, which, like, granted, life had to kick my fucking ass and take everything away from me. I had to lose literally everything, including my family, like my dogs. The only living beings that were, like, in my personal life. The only real friends that I had, like my dependents, my children, my best friends, gone forever. Never get to see them again. I lost everything. But it certainly taught me how to be able to appreciate the simple things. And I really hope that people don't have to have everything fucking taken from them to be able to learn how to appreciate things. That was a huge pride issue on my part, and I hate that. And I just don't want that for anybody else. So that's why I share these stories too. You know, I don't want people to have to go through what I've been through. I want people to be able to learn from me so that they don't have to go through those things, so that they can be like that much further ahead. I do not care if people are ahead of me. Like, I don't care if people are, I want people to be doing better than me. I want people to be ahead of me. I want people to be happier than I am. Because I'm the happiest person I know these days, and that is really wild. And it doesn't hurt my feelings because I'm happy, right? But at the same time, like, it is heartbreaking because, like, I think about everything that I've been through. And it's like, how can I be the happiest person that I know? That's great. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. I'm so thankful for it. But, like, I don't want that. You know what I mean? Like, I would hope that, like, I'm, like, the baseline, like, the very, very bottom for where I would hope people can be in the future. Everybody. Like, generally speaking. Unless you're not willing to do a certain level of work. You know? Like, that's where I'm at. Because I do think that living well and having nice things requires a certain amount of work. But, like, anybody can do it. And, like, I don't think that it needs to be... universally, as far as the universe is concerned, it's not so obvious. Like, it's not based on it's based on my individual capacity where I'm at. But, like, any person with, like, a disability of any sort, or, like, you know, like, any sort of, like, status difference or anything like that, like, it should never... those things shouldn't impact our capacity to be able to live well and be happy, like, truly happy, you know? So, yeah, that's just, I do hope that in the future that I'm, like, the marker for where, like, this is, like, where I'm at right now, like, should be, like, the bare minimum. We can do so much better than we're doing right now. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say. Alright, let's come out with, let's tell something. I'm just gonna let all the cards come out that want to, the way that they want. Okay, not all the cards come out. All the cards that want to come out the way that they want to. Okay. I got 5 cards face down. Got 3 cards face up. So I'm going to put them like this. And then we will go from there. I wonder if I can set this up so you can see it. I don't know exactly how to do that. This is how I set it up. Normally face down cards are clarifiers, face up cards are the ones that I read, but I'm doing this the opposite for some reason. And I'm going to flip these 3. This is what we're looking at. God, it's been a minute. Okay. Okay. My main card is the Ace of Pentacles in reverse, which to me is immediately resonating as a lack mentality, a fear of not having enough, a constant consideration that that there isn't a proper abundance in the world. And it's weird because I was actually, I just watched this really weird horror movie today called Sin Eaters, The Curse of the Sin Eater, something like that. And the concept of Sin Eaters was really prevalent to me. And in this movie, like, the concept was that there was this huge mansion, huge lot of land, like this giant estate that had been inherited, passed down through an inheritance for generations and generations and generations. But the way it was getting passed down was through sin eating, which in the movie was described, which, like, I haven't looked into it, but it probably is a real thing. Like, I'm sure there's some occult practice that relates to it, where a person would be offered to eat a meal off of the corpse of the owner of the estate upon their death, and if they did eat the meal and ate the entire meal off of this person's dead corpse, that they would receive the entire estate. The catch was that they had to sign an agreement and say a sort of like prayer after signing the agreement and after eating the meal, that they would take on the entire estate and everything that came with it, including the sins of that owner, that current owner of the estate. And just like, but the curse was that, like, with each inheritance, they were taking on the unresolved sins and what's the word? Like repented, or like, yeah, unresolved sins of each person as they were passing the estate down. Because essentially, like, the more sins they're taking on from somebody else, like, the more heavily it's weighing on them, to the point that, like, it's just eating away at their souls, and nobody's able to, like, technically maintain the estate, and it just keeps getting passed on and, like, destroying people's lives and, like, gaining more and more sins onto it, right? Okay, so that was, like, the entire concept, which I don't know, the movie was, like, whatever. It was an interesting concept, though. And those are the kind of movies that I tend to like, too, are ones that, like, I like it doesn't really even matter how the acting or anything was. I like the concepts, and I like to, like, embellish on them and reflect on them and consider a lot of different things. So in this one, then, I was thinking about how, like, if I myself had considered myself, like, a sin eater, Like I felt like, like if as a child I was forced to eat off of the corpse of somebody to receive their inheritance. Let's say that that's what the story was. That I was forced as a child. So before I even like became capable of my own sin fully, I was already inheriting all of these sins from all of these past owners, right? And like in the movie, the main character, like almost immediately, it seems like he can't handle it, and he's like, this is too much, I just want to kill myself. And apparently that's just how most people have been, because it's just too much. Like they essentially like start seeing all of these ghosts, and these ghosts are like tormenting them because it's the sins of the past people that are coming back to haunt them, right? Because they're unresolved. But I related to that and was reflecting on that because like in my own life, like that's why I started getting into ancestor worship. That's how I've looked at my life. It's like so many of the things I've dealt with aren't just like organically out of me. They are because of my DNA and because I'm carrying these things in my DNA and through the experience of being a sin eater that way, right? Of making this binding agreement with my soul, whether I'm aware that I did it or not. However, like they're not just coming from me, they're coming from that curse. They're coming from this long lineage of passed down sins. And that's why like, like, I don't know if you'd watched any of my other videos, but I had a video where it's talking about a past life, and like there were all these emotions that like I don't even resonate with in this life that I had to like feel through and process, even though they're not even things that like are personal to me in this body or this life, but the things that I can understand and feel and I was seeing. So like I'm having to work through those things in order to come to a point of like peace in my heart, right? And in my soul. That's something I've been doing my whole life. So like this idea of having that curse, and it like supposed to make me want to kill myself essentially, or that's like what it's done to everybody else, or what it tends to do just because it's so heavy. But like I always took a sense of responsibility for those things, and then I've like learned through time how to properly visualize those things and how to really work those things out. And like, that was something where like in the movie, like this, he's trying to figure out these different ways to absolve himself of the responsibility of the estate because he can't handle it, and he doesn't know what to do with all these other people's sins because it's just too much. He's not those other people. How is he supposed to deal with their sin? But like my concept of relativity and the fact that we're all connected has always connected me to all of those other people. So if it's something that I can reflect in my own heart with, even if I don't recognize it in my person, it's still something I can resolve in myself, because I'm not looking for an external absolution. I'm decoding my DNA to find what is being triggered that way and what can be done about it. And I also learned to do that at a fairly young age. And it just came naturally through like dreams. Mostly, like a lot of my information comes through my dreams. Which is so funny too. My roommate happened to mention how like in the Orthodox Church they have a strong belief about dreams being potentially demonic, and like not interpreting dreams because you never know when the devil's speaking to you. And like I think when you're in a not fully conscious state, that can be true, but that's the importance of dreams and of building up your astral person, because then you become strong enough to be able to realize what is of you and what isn't, right? Because had I not learned that, and this all just came naturally, like this is my ancestors working through me in my blood, working these things out through my dreams. Had I not learned and cared so much about those things and then learned how to do that, the other night when I was having these crazy random projections, I wouldn't have been able to recognize those as external. I would have taken them out of myself, and that would have ruined my entire fucking week, if not like the next couple months, because they were concepts that were meant to make me spiral. But instead I recognized them as external. that they were being projected from elsewhere. They weren't mine. They weren't my visions. They were being projected onto me. I recognized that and shut them off. So in my dream, at part of my dream, I remember like all of a sudden I started like feeling in a sort of feverish state, and I started having all of these random like really negative feelings overcoming me. And I was like half awake, half asleep. I was asleep when this was happening, and then I like slightly woke up a little bit, so I'm like half awake, half asleep. And I could like see shadows and figures in my room. And they were meant to startle me and to make me feel some type of way, but I just kept like not like seeing them, receiving that, like accepting them and releasing them. Not receiving them, but like accepting them and releasing them, right? Like seeing them, calling them out, letting them go. And there was like this frustration building about it, and where the power was like trying to get more intense to like really try to get into my psyche. And I could feel that, like it felt like they were like trying to get close, trying to get under my skin, and I just wasn't letting them. They were frustrated with that. And then I saw this vision of a Christmas tree being bound in black ties, and very quickly I recognized it as somebody trying to put root work on me, and I cut that shit off right away. Like I just was like, nope. And I woke up, but I was like still like in such a tired, sleepy state. And like that's kind of how a lot of that stuff works too. It'll try to keep you tired and keep you out of your astral body. It tries to keep you in lower vibrations so you can't get up into your astral body, right? I've already done this work for a really, really long time, and I've done it like very intently for like long periods of time. So this isn't terribly difficult for me to do normally. But like if I'm in a depressive state and I'm smoking pot and drinking constantly, or having sex with people that I have no right having sex with, like those energies will tend to keep me very low enough that like it's hard for me to get up into my astral body, and then those dreams will affect me and will keep me in a low state, and will like start taking my power away. Will start like taking my creativity away, taking my drive away and my motivation, taking my self-care away. That's how those things affect me, right? And I think that this is happening on like a very normal basis to most people, and that most people just aren't consciously aware of what's happening in their sleep state, which is why it's such like a scary place for so many people. But like more and more I hear people talking about sleep paralysis, which like is some dark shit, and like it's not coming from nowhere. Like we're really dealing with like, I mean, there's literal like cults of people, like politicians even and shit, that are getting together and trying to curse the masses in their dream states and in their lower states, which is why they also like brought fentanyl into the country and stuff like that too, because if it's not going to kill you, it's definitely going to keep you in a low state, and they want people in low states, right? You're just easier to control that way because you can't be aware of yourself. So I was like in that weird state, and it was like trying real hard to keep me there. And it was like mostly what got it was because when I saw the Christmas tree being bound, I shut it off right away, but it struck a fear in me, like a bit of a fear, even just like the tiniest little bit of fear. That's all it needs. That's all this negative energy needs to get on top of you, right? You just have, now I'm like actively fighting it. Even more than I was. And then I looked at the clock. I like reached over and touched my phone to look at the clock, and it was 3:15. It's 3:14, turned 3:15 when I looked at the clock. And if you know, you know. And I kind of laughed to myself about it. And at that point, the laugh made me feel safe. So I kind of fell back into my sleep state. And immediately a mirror was brought in front of me, and somebody else's. I didn't see exactly who it was. It was shifty and dark, because it was like a black mirror, in candlelight. So you like couldn't really see whose face it was. It was like when your eyes are trying to figure out what it is that you're looking at, but it wasn't me. It definitely wasn't my reflection. And that was also like a trick to try to get me to not be able to see myself, right? And I remember just like, instead of even trying to see myself in the mirror, I just forced the mirror out of my head completely. I was like, I'm not playing this game at all. And then I woke myself up all the way, and I stayed up for about 40 minutes maybe until I fell back asleep. And at that point, like, I was very tired because it's the middle of the night and I was like just getting into an REM cycle. But I stayed awake, and once I had like cleared those energies, I went back to sleep, but they were still trying because now they came into an actual dream, and I had an actual dream up until the morning, or I had a dream like I woke up and it was morning time by the time the dream had just ended. And in the dream it was just trying to, I woke up and like I didn't resonate with it, but I saw what it was trying to do, which was induce a bit of fear, just enough to remind me that I still am capable of being afraid, right? And it was preying on my self-protection methods, trying to convince me that they're egotistical and hurting others, and ultimately like a form of cowardice to be running away from like my family or certain people in the family. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like I know what I know, and I know why you guys are doing this. So I just put it off. But that's the importance of being this in a better state, right? So when I see this Ace of Pentacles in reverse, like, oh, that's what I was saying. Okay, so in this movie, there's all that stuff going on, okay? And they're like trying to keep this guy in a lower state. So his concept is that he has to kill himself. And the estate just keeps getting passed on. And as I was looking at it and reflecting on it and relating to it, I realized that like if that's the curse of the Sinator, is that you have this estate, you have all the abundance in the world. This dude had like a black credit card, like he could get anything he wanted, right? He has all the cars, he has all this house, he has like all these servants, he has everything in the world he could possibly ever want, and he can't do shit with it because he's so overcome with these sins of other people and his own sins and his own incapacity to like absolve all of those sins, right? That's what I've been able to come into, which is that I've been given the entire abundance of the universe, and the only thing keeping me from being able to properly use it to my benefit and to the benefit of others, and to use it the way that I actually want to use it, is the sins of others, is the sins that I've taken on through those things, and like trying to, the way that those things can affect me. And like just the guilt that comes with it, really. And like I've done so much work to work through those things. So I've been able to receive the abundance of the universe in so many different ways, and it's been incredible. And I really have seen those things, but it was like a reminder of like being able to look at that bigger picture and see it more and more, and being able to like really recognize when like even high vibing energies, if it's not sustainable, if they're just like jumping up, like trampolining, like you gotta wait till they come down to see how low their lows are too. Because like not everybody is in alignment with you, even if you're in alignment for a period of time, or like with one specific subject, or like with certain qualities. Like you have to give it time and space to really be able to see it from all of these different perspectives, to see what it is. Nothing is a black hole the way that we've always thought of holes. Like we think of hole like a hole in the wall. There's an entrance and an exit, and they're one thing, and it's this two-dimensional, practically non-existent thing, right? It's like a void, but it's a two-dimensional void. But like if you consider the movie Interstellar, I thought that was like the craziest depiction, and such a perfect depiction. And like when you understand quantum mechanics, like that really is the mechanics of a black hole, is that it's not really a hole, it's more of a sphere. And you can go directly into it and into space-time and find yourself essentially like lost in the fibers of space and time. Then you have to weed through all of it in order to find what it is that you're looking for. But like if you were able to conceive of that prior to entering it enough that you could maneuver your way around it and kind of see it for what it really is, then you'd be able to go into it with a sense of confidence and direction, right? I used to have this like little image, I guess I came up with, of insanity, where like people will say certain things are insane simply because it doesn't fit the norm, when the norm has truly become insane. And to be inside of sanity would be to actively be sane, when to be standing outside of it saying that's insane is actually the crazy thing to do, right? But like, only can you understand a thing once you like go inside of it and really feel your way around. So there's like this duality and this balance constantly, right? And okay, so the abundance of the universe, the fear that the abundance of the universe isn't accessible, leads to the Hanged Man in the upright. The Hanged Man isn't in the upright. There is your duality right there. This is everything that I just explained. Okay. The next cards that I got, the opposing cards that not opposing, I said opposing though, so the opposing cards that I got are the Seven of Wands and the King of Cups in reverse. The Seven of Wands upright, the King of Cups in reverse. Well, and then I have these two cards that I was told to turn on their side. So they're kind of leading back and forth into each other. The Seven of Wands leading into the Ace of Pentacles with Temperance. Ace of Pentacles in reverse leading into the Ace of Wands. The Seven of Wands through Temperance. The Ace of Pentacles in reverse leading to the King of Cups in reverse through the King of Swords, and vice versa. Okay, so with the Seven of Wands, that's like self-defense, right? That's emotional defense, being defensive. Temperance, being in between that, and abundance. Okay, this is abundance, but it's the fear, it's a lack mentality. Okay, normally it would stand for abundance, but because it's in the reverse, it's a lack mentality. So it's defensiveness over time that leads to the lack mentality. But similarly, the lack mentality over time will lead to defensiveness. And if you wanted to get this, turn this into abundance, well, it would also take temperance, but it would take true temperance, actually being willing to see that balance and to wait those things out. And to maybe, well, the clarifier I have for the Seven of Wands is the Six of Pentacles, or the Nine of Pentacles rather, which is a peace with one's own wealth, a security of one's own abundance. So like, if you were to consider what it is that you already have, I already explained what all of this is. So it's funny because like before I've been looking at the cards, it's kind of just revalidating what it is that I already said. But like, if you were to be thankful for every little thing that you had already, you wouldn't need to have everything taken from you where you're now having to defend yourself because everything keeps getting taken away and you're in this lack mentality that you're losing everything in your life. And, it just feels like time is just like destroying you, like it did for a while for me, for a good 30 odd years. If you're able to actually appreciate the things that you have and to be at comfort and at peace and with a sense of security and serenity over the things that you have, and the abundance that you have, of which you have no shortage, no matter what position you're in. I was literally on the street homeless with no one to talk to. I had lost my dogs, I'd lost my car, I had zero money, I hadn't eaten in days, and I still had so many things to be thankful for. It blew my mind. Okay, there's always something to be thankful for, even like the tiniest little thing you can find. If you can focus your mind onto being grateful rather than to thinking about the things that you don't have and what am I going to do to get there, to get those things that I need so bad, if you can just focus on what you have, your mind will be in a better place to be able to do what it is that you're trying to do. You'll be able to balance out those those cups with a clearer mind. I mean, that's the importance. Like temperance, if it's in the reverse, like temperance right on the angel's head is the sun symbol and rays coming out. It's a positive mindset, and in its chest is an upright triangle, because it's a balance coming from the head down into the body. If you don't have yourself solidified both in the water and on the ground, in your emotions and in your actual reality, you will lose yourself very quickly, and you will find yourself in a lack mentality, and you will find yourself having to defend yourself against everything and everyone, right? But those things can very quickly become your own abundance. That's right. You don't need to look for the Ace of Pentacles when you already have the Nine of Pentacles. This is enough. This is sufficient. You can be happy with just this. And if you can't be happy with this, then you shouldn't, expect anything more, because you're not going to be given more until you can appreciate what you already have. On the reverse side, this is still talking about in the negative, but we're talking about in the positive, right? So the lack mentality through the King of Swords. So through the arrogance that you know what's best. The confidence, potentially unjustified, that you're in the right and that you deserve better than what it is that you already have, will, one, lead you into the King of Cups in the reverse. Like, that's like, no, I can't give anymore because I'm already not getting what I deserve. And I have nothing left to give because I'm not getting what I deserve, right? Like, I'm right, everybody else is wrong, and until I am receiving my abundance, I don't have to give anything more. Okay, that's what this little bit is a reflection of. All that leads to is the Five of Wands. Chaos, confusion, conflict. In the positive, this looks like training. This looks like, like if me and my friends all got together and went and found some sticks to fight with and had a little sword fight, like, that would be fun as hell. But part of it's like a training thing, right? Like if you're in like jiu-jitsu class or whatever, and like you're sparring, because we've got this guy who's like, he's smiling. At first it's all that holding yourself back does is hold you back. So like, as long as you're telling yourself, I deserve more, so I don't have to give anything, you're holding yourself back. There was a meme that I saw the other day that I shared with a friend that was like, when you're feeling discouraged, the best thing you can do is encourage somebody else. When you're feeling like you have nothing to give, the best thing you can do is give. When I had no money, okay, I didn't have any money, I hadn't eaten a couple days, I was walking about 20 miles a day when I was walking down to Texas. Actually, I didn't have any money. But I stopped. I also didn't know like where to sit. I just wanted to take a rest, right? Not to like sleep. I just wanted to sit and chill out for a while because I was like feeling some type of way. And I walked up on a Checkers or Rallies, one or the other. I think it was a Rallies maybe. But they had tables outside and they had Wi-Fi. So I decided that was a good place to stop. So I stopped and I was sitting on my Wi-Fi, and I couldn't get anything there, so I was hoping that they didn't like yell at me to leave, but I was just like minding my own business. I really wasn't trying to take up any space or anything like that, but I obviously had my couple bags with me. I probably looked pretty homeless, because I was, and I was all hot and sweaty, from walking forever. I probably hadn't showered, even gotten to clean myself up at all in a couple days either. And this church group stopped there in their big old church van, stopped there, and they all got out and they all got food. And at one point, while they're like still ordering and stuff, this one girl comes up to me and she was like, hey, I was just led to give you this. And she gave me $10. And I was like, no, that's okay. I can't take that from you. And she was like, no, like, obviously you need it. It's okay. And then just gave it to me. And I gave her a hug. You know, I was trying not to cry. I never ask for stuff. I know that the universe will take care of me in those types of ways, but like I never asked for money. So for people just to be that generous, and $10 is a lot to just like hand somebody, you know, especially when like $1 would go so far at that point in time. So $10 is like I felt rich, right? So she hands me this $10. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I say a little prayer of thanks. And I kind of meditate for a minute because I just feel so blessed by it. Well, then I happened to notice this woman who came up who was way dirtier than I was and had a plastic bag with barely anything in it. I had my backpack. So she was in a much more dire state than I was. She'd probably been living on the street for a few years. She probably was, you know, on some sort of drug or alcohol. But she was in more need than I was. And the church group had left or like was, I don't know, they were distracted or whatever. She had given me the $10 though. And I remember being like, well, obviously I'm going to get something to eat because I'm very hungry, but this woman's even hungrier than I am. So I planned to get maybe like a chicken tender basket, to get whatever, and just to eat like a small amount and to let her have most of it. So I asked her if she wanted to share a meal with me. She was like, yeah, that's so sweet, thank you. So we went up to the counter, and as soon as we got up to it, they closed. They literally closed the door on our faces, like, you know, the little window or whatever, closed it on our faces and wouldn't take us. And I'm assuming that this woman probably stayed around there, so when they realized that we were homeless, they were like, we're not dealing with you guys. And it was about the time for them to close anyways. But I remember just being like so excited at first to be able to share a meal with her and that $10 with her, and then like for them just to close the windows on us was like, okay, so not only are we not going to be able to eat, but like now my feelings are hurt, right? And so I told her, well, you know, well, I got some granola bars left. I had like, I think 3 granola bars left, and I was like, so you can have so I gave her 2 of them. I knew that I was going to be cared for regardless, right? Because I always am, and especially like when I just trust the universe. So I gave her 2 granola bars, and then I gave her like my scarf. I had a scarf too, because she just didn't have anything. So I gave her my scarf, which was like this big, giant, warm handkerchief that she could use like as a pillow. She could use as like a little blanket. She could use to like get wet and keep herself cool. Anything that she needed. She could use it as another knapsack if she needed. And I gave her the granola bars. And then I remember like thinking about it and for a second being like, but this $10, like they gave it to me. And I was like, they didn't give it to me. The universe gave it to me. It's the universe's money. Like it'll come back to me if I give it away. So I gave it to her. And at first she didn't want to take it because obviously it was the only money I had to, but she was like, she did. And she was like, thank you so much. And I don't care what she spent it on. It was the universe's money, right? And all I knew was that if I gave it away, that it would come back to me. Oddly enough, like 5 miles up the way, like it was the next day, but it was like 5 miles up the way, somebody else gave me $10 out of fucking nowhere. And I was like, man, this $10 is just going to keep moving through my hands. You know, I'm just going to keep blessing people. And it did like 3 times, 4 times. It just kept moving around. And then it stopped for a while. But the point was that my concept that like I had nothing, right? But instead of hoarding what little bit that I did have and being like, well, now I got this $10 so I can go get whatever I get, and like, sucks to be you, you're in a worse position. Good thing I'm not there. I gave. And I gave even more upon the concept that like I didn't have anything to give. Knowing that if I did that in good faith, it would come back to me. And it did. And that is the power of good faith. And it's important for me to share those messages because I don't think people realize how prevalent those things are and how like it literally does work that way. When I was watching this movie, like if this guy just had any faith whatsoever, he could have worked those things out. But instead, he actually even went to a priest and to repent of the other people's sins. But then he got caught up in the lack mentality because he couldn't figure out where all of these sins were coming from, and he couldn't find the base enough to, what is it called when you, I didn't grow up in a Catholic church or any type of church like this, but where you like confess to the priest, right? You confess to God in my religion that I grew up in. So like, but he had to confess these things to the priest, and he couldn't confess them to the priest because the priest needed to know what the sins were, and he didn't even know where to begin with half of these things. So then he felt super overwhelmed, didn't know what to do, realized that he couldn't absolve all of these other people's sins, and so again he became like, he like started hoarding his lack mentality, to the point that he ended up passing it on to his friend, and he had like tried to save his friend from it, but at the same time he still kind of used his friend as collateral in a way that like was risky, and ended up losing for it. And like you see that at the end or whatever. Sorry, fucking, what's it called? I ruined the movie for you, but that was the movie. But that's the mindset too, is that like when you release the lack mentality, you can literally use your lack as like a force for creativity. Well, we don't have swords to fight with, so we grab sticks, right? Like, we're not strong, grown men capable of being knights yet, so we practice, like, with our friends, and like, in this, we play a game. Like, when you're in the King of Cups in reverse energy, you're withholding the very things, the very keys that the universe has given you to use to open those doors. And as long as you're withholding those keys, you're not going to open those doors. You're going to come back into a sense of arrogance, into a sense of, I know better, I know best. All you know at that point, all you know is your lack mentality. And that is going to leave you in the hanged man position. The only way out of this, and the only way into like a proper state of communion with oneself and alignment with your reality and the universe around you, and the true abundance that's been trying to be passed down to you through generation and generation, is to be willing to look at the things that you've received in your life and the things that you're actively processing, the situations that you're going through, to look at them as opportunities. Everything is an opportunity. Everything is a gift. Even the shit you are given is a gift for a garden that you are supposed to be growing in of yourself. And if you're always looking for opportunity, not an opportunity to make a quick buck, not an opportunity to like, you know, like this dude in the movie, like he's looking for a way out, right? Like he's looking for, he's practically poor, can't afford anything, hates his job, hates his life. He's looking for a way out. I'm not talking about being an opportunist. I'm talking about being grateful. I'm talking about being an alchemist. I'm talking about being able to align yourself with the creative, positive life force within you that has moved through all of these generations through you, in order to bring you the opportunity to receive the abundance of the universe, if only you would just put your ego aside. Your ego doesn't mean shit. Like, the best you can do with it is alchemize it into your own humbling commitment to self-betterment and thus world betterment. Because you're not going to better yourself if you're making everything else go to shit too. Like, that's not how it works, right? We're all connected. All of these things are connected. The reason that external energies aren't able to bring me down even in my half-conscious states is because I am well aware of how connected all things are, because I embrace that connection, and because I care to honor it in my life, and I'm willing to put myself aside, my desires aside. Like, man, that $10 that day could have got me a pack of cigarettes that would have lasted me a whole week. just to de-stress a bit, right? But cigarettes don't help you to stress. They actually give you a reason to stress when you don't have a cigarette, you know? But that $10 I could have taken it and then gotten myself some food. I could have gotten multiple things to eat for throughout a week. That $10 could have fed me for an entire week, easy, off of things that I got at the gas station or things that I got at the dollar store or whatever. If I got shit at the dollar store, it could have fed me for a week and a half, at least 2 weeks, depending on how I was eating. But I instead trusted that it wasn't given to me to be consumed. It was given me to be given away. And so I listened to that. And when I did, the abundance of the universe opened to me. And suddenly, not only did I receive that $10, I actually received $20. And the blessings of, like, the communications and, like, people that I met after that. Had I gone a different route, had I taken that $10 for myself, I probably would have walked a different route to get to a specific store to spend that money. But instead, I just kept walking a certain way because what else was I going to do? I didn't have that money, right? And came upon an extremely life-affirming situation with this random woman that I met the next day. So, you know, because that was a whole nother thing. That was wild. But, like, I met this woman at the bus stop, and she was walking around talking to herself, and she wasn't really making any sense, and you couldn't really understand what she was saying. It seemed obvious to me that she was not necessarily on drugs at the time, but it had been on drugs for an extremely long time, to the point where, like, her brain just was just kind of all over the place, right? And people were, like, walking past her and, like, avoiding her. She was, like, saying stuff to people as they were driving past, and I could see people actively trying to avoid this woman. And I didn't try to actively avoid her. In fact, at that point, like, because I felt just personally so blessed by being able to give that money and my things to that other woman, at this point I was like, I could just give all my stuff away. The universe is going to take care of me. Meanwhile, like, I only have, like, you know, 4 shirts, maybe 5 shirts, a couple pairs of shorts, a couple pairs of pants, maybe 3 pairs of socks, a pair of sandals. I think I had just my pair of sandals. I think I even had just my pair of sandals. I might have had a pair of actual shoes, but they sucked for walking in. They were mostly just, like, if it was not ground that I could walk in my sandals on. I did have a pair of shoes. I just barely ever wore them. I mostly wore the sandals. And then I had, like, I'd already given my granola bars away. I had, like, nothing to give, right? But I sat down with this woman with the intent that I'm going to find what it is that she needs from me, and I'm going to give it to her, because this is a woman in need. I can tell that she's a woman in need. And I wouldn't have crossed her path if it wasn't for a reason, if there wasn't something to be given and to received out of this. And I spent about 3 hours, maybe, 4 hours, something like that, talking with her, to the point where, like, after a while of talking to her, and I couldn't understand her at first, but I just sat there and listened, and I just, you know, was being real friendly, and she was, like, showing me the stuff that she had and everything like that. I didn't really know what I was doing there, to be honest, until she started talking, and, like, I didn't even really notice, because, like, I don't know, I've kind of always been like that. I've had friends that stutter, or, you know, I grew up with, like, mentally handicapped people who, like, most people struggle to communicate with, or, like, people that speak other languages, and I've always been able to understand people. So, like, I'm sitting there, like, talking to her, and, like, she starts to communicate more and more, to the point where, like, now she's just talking like a normal person. And when she realized that, like, I didn't even fully realize it. It wasn't really any different to me. I just wasn't really thinking about it. But all of a sudden she was like, this is a miracle. She's like, you brought my voice back. And then she just started, like, shouting, like, praise Jesus, praise God. This is my sister. This woman is an angel. Like, this is a blessing. And I was like, this is profound. This is incredible. And then she started just, like, speaking wisdom and truths into me about, like, my journey and how I was going to meet more people like her who I was going to bless, and how, like, I was being used as a specific tool to bless people, and, like, what a blessing that was, and all of these different things. And she just started, like, communicating in this just extremely powerful way. And it was moving me to tears. We were both sitting there weeping. People are driving by looking at us like we're crazy, probably thinking we're both on drugs. But we weren't. We were just moved by the Spirit. And that Spirit is in all of us. It is what connects all of us. If you can just let yourself go enough to access that Spirit, you can have actual abundance, divine abundance. You just have to be willing to receive it. You have to put away the bullshit. You have to be willing to listen to that tiny little voice in you that's saying, you know what? Go and talk to that person. You know what? You're needed here. Do this thing. You know what? Give of yourself. Because you have a lot of other voices that are going to be around saying, like, you're going to look weird. You don't have enough to give. You need that for yourself. Whatever it is, listen to that tiny, tiny, tiny little quiet little voice that's like, just do the right thing. Just do the right thing. Please do the right thing. It'll get louder the more you listen to it. It'll get louder the more you listen to it, to the point where now, even in my half subconscious state, I can hear it and be like, oh, yep, nope, not thinking about that. Not giving that any power, not giving that any energy. This is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. It's not evident all the time. There's plenty of times that I miss it. There's plenty of times that I hear it and choose to do something else, right? But I also am blessed enough to usually see the consequences of that pretty often, pretty consistently. There's also a curse that my mom gave me that she meant as a curse that, like, well, she meant as like she used it as a way to access control over me, which essentially was a curse, but it's only been used to my benefit over time, which was that your sins will find you out. 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 She told me that every time about everything, to the point that, like, I wasn't going to lie to them. I wasn't going to do the things that I knew I wasn't supposed to do. I would do things that I knew they wouldn't find out about. But if there was any chance of them finding out about it, I wouldn't do it, because I knew that my sins were going to find me out. Which is why I became addicted to online porn and stupid stuff like that, right? Because while all my friends were sneaking out and sleeping with their boyfriends, I was just diddling myself online and letting myself get sex trafficked online, because my parents weren't going to find out about those things. And like, I had to go through these processes that were really hard, that weren't great, that weren't fun, and that weren't good, just to come to a place of understand my sins did find me out. I did get the karma, not just for my own, and like, that's how the movie ends, that Sin Eater movie. At the very end of it, and spoiler, but I ruined the whole movie already. But he, at the very end of it, like, he's sitting there with his karma. He thought that he evaded everything, and he evaded the karma from everybody else's sins because he passed those on to his friend, but he couldn't evade his own karma, the sins that he had committed. And that is true. That's very true. We might be able to separate ourselves from the sins of everybody else in different ways, but we can never separate ourselves from our own sins unless we actively do the work to resolve those things. And everything that happens in our lives is just an opportunity for us to meet ourselves, for us to see our own selves in that mirror, for us to not even have to have a mirror to know ourselves, right? And I guess that's the message. That's the importance, you recognize that you have a lack mentality, and you want to stop feeling stuck in it, and you want to stop feeling like you're in prison to your own thoughts, to your own deeds, to your own lack. Be grateful for something. Be grateful for those very things that you think are holding you back. That's how you truly alchemize those things. When you can take the exact things that are being thrown at you and use them for yourself, and use them in a way that's good and that's beneficial, like, that is some powerful, powerful alchemy. And I promise you, if you do that work and you alchemize things that way, you're not only going to see the rewards for your personal self, the abundance of the universe being given to you, you're also going to see how the abundance of the universe is given through you into the rest of the universe. Things will become more connected in such a beautiful, powerful, profound way. You will find yourself sitting on the side of a street crying with a stranger because of how impacted you both are by the abundance of the universe through the both of you, and how just being in alignment with those things brings you to those spaces that you never would have been otherwise, at the right place at the right time. Okay, I guess that's the end of it. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.